Daf Kuf Gimel Amud Beis will begin at Kuf Gimel Amud Aleph, 2 lines from the bottom. We're in the middle of the sugya between the apparent stira in our Mishnah in Eruvin that says Chaytchen Yabelis b'Migdash Avaloi b'Medina V'im Bekli Kan V'Kanos. You can cut off the wart in the Mikdash, but not in the Medina, but with the Kli in both places it was also. And the Mishnah in Psachim that says that the Chatichas Yabelta is Ein Deichen Shabbos, and Rabbi Lezer Amer Deichen. So how do we resolve the steer? Now, initially we thought to say that we cannot say that our Mishnah is going according to Rabbi Lezer. The shita Rabbi Lezer is that Machshirei Mitzvah are Deichen Shabbos, because if our Mishnah was Rabbi Lezer, then it would be mutter even Bekli. And our Mishnah says that Chaytchen Yabelis b'Migdash aval in Bekli kan v'kan oser. Now, according to Rabbi Lezer, the Machshir Mitzvah are Doiche Shabbos, even if it means a Melacha D'Oraisa. So why would our Mishnah answer Bekli? So initially we thought that our Tana cannot be Rabbi Lezer. The Tana of Psachim says that it is also to be the Chaytech Yabelis. Rabbi Lezer says Deichen. But we have an apparent steer between our Mishnah and the Tana Kama of Psachim, and we assume that our Tana cannot be Rabbi Lezer. But now the Gemara says no. Rava Amar Rabbi Lezer, the Tana of our Mishnah could be Rabbi Eliezer. If it's Rabbi Lezer, why do we say Bekli is also? We understand that it's mutter if it's not a Kli, but why Bekli would be also? Because it's Rabbi Lezer, the Amar Machshira Mitzvah Deichen Shabbos, even though he says Machshira Mitzvah Deichen Shabbos, even if it's a Deraisa, but a Moed Rabbi Lezer, the Kamen Ashel Shnui Mishaninin. However, if you could make a Shinui without impacting on doing the Mitzvah, without impairing the Mitzvah, then we say you make a Shinui, and rather than do a Deraisa, do the Rabbanan. So therefore, over here, in our Mishnah, it's not necessary to use a Kli. You can do it by Yad, and therefore we do not allow you to do it by Kli. But really the Tana over here is Rabbi Lezer. The Tana Kama of Psachim is a different Tana who does not allow to be Deiche Shabbos for Machshir Mitzvah. Maihi, where do we see that Rabbi Lezer says this? That he says that if you can make a Shinoi, rather make a Shinoi. The Sanya we learned in Brisa, Kain shall also be Abelis. If he had a wart, on the Kain's body there is a wart, and therefore he's considered to be a Baal Mum, and he can't do the avoidum. His friend cuts it off with his teeth. So you have a double shino here. His friend is doing it. Number one, he's not doing it. His friend is doing it. Number two, it's done with his teeth. And it's not even done by hand. And it's certainly not done by Kli. It's his chaver chet lebishinov. Now, as a part of a background over here, there is another machlekes between Rabbi Lezer and the Chacham. Aside from whether Machshir Mitzvah Deichen Shabbos, there's another machlekes, is that if a person cuts off from his own body, if he cuts off from his own body biyad and not bekli, is that a malacha deraisa or not? According to Chachamim, it's only if you use a kli, not biyad. According to Rabbi Lezer, it is a malacha deraisa. However, Rabbi Lezer's maida that if his friend cuts it off biyad, that it's the Rabbanan, not the Raisa. So, therefore, with that background, we can analyze it as follows. So, the Gemara says as follows: B'shinav in Bekli loy. His friend can do it with the teeth and not with the kli. Chaver in iuloi, and it's only his friend, but not him. So, Mani, who's the Tana? Ilema Rabbanan Obemikdash. If you say the Tana is going according to the Rabbanan, then hold the Machshir Mitzvah not Deicher Shabbos, and we're talking about an avoida. It's needed b'Mikdash. It's an avoida for the Mikdash. Well, why would that be? Since the Rabbanan hold that it's only a shvus, that even if he bites it off from his own body, it's not a deraisa, it's a derabanan. So, what difference does it make if he does it or if his friend does it? In any event, it's a derabanan, it's not a deraisa, so why would you say that his friend does it? So must be, therefore, it's not Rabbanan, must be going according to Rabbi Eliezer. Ela Rabbi Eliezer, must be that it's going according to Rabbi Eliezer. That if he bites it off from his own body, he bites off the growth from his own body, it's an Isur D'Oraisa, it's Chayiv Chatas. And therefore we have his friend do it and not him, and therefore so as not to be over at the rice. Now, Rabbi Eliezer holds a Machshir Mitzvah Deichen Shabbos even by the rice. So what do you see over here? But still, nevertheless, but we say if you could do a shinoi, rather do a shinoi than rather than me over the raisa. So therefore we see that this is Rabbi Eliezer Shita, where it says lo olam Rabbanan. No, I'll tell you it's going according to the Rabbanan. So why do you say his friend does it? They also if the growth would be on his stomach, or then in a place where it's accessible to him, then he himself could do it, because it's in any event only the Rabbanan. Why do we say his friend does it? Not the sheet of Rabbi Eliezer, because if he does it, it's the D'Oraisa, his friend does it, it's the Rabbanan. No, even if he would do it on his own body, it's the Rabbanan. But why do we say his friend does it? It's for practical reasons. We're talking where the bite mark was either on his back or on his elbows, where he can't reach it. It's a practical matter. So that's why his friend does it, because he can't reach it. But it's only for a practical reason. Well, if you're going according to Rabbanan, then why does his friend bite it off? Nishkal Abiyad, let his friend remove it by hand. Because if it's going according to the Rabbanan, it's a Rabbanan, so why does his friend have to bite it? Remove it by hand. V'tifsha to Rabbi Eliezer, and additionally, you'll be able to be paished by saying by hand. You'll gain additionally that to be paished what Rabbi Eliezer said. The Amud Rabbi Eliezer. This is the Amud Rabbi Eliezer, not to be confused with the Tana Rabbi Eliezer. The Amud Rabbi Eliezer said that machlekes biyat. The machlekes between Rabbi Eliezer and the Chachamim is if he removes it by hand. Aval b'kli divra kol chayiv. But the Kli, the Rabbanan are also moida that he's a Chayiv Achatas. If he removes a growth from his own body with a Kli, the Rabbanan are also moida he's Chayiv Achatas. So therefore, if you would have said that it's his friend removes it with the hand, so first of all, if it's going according to the Rabbanan, what's the reason, what's the purpose, what's gained by saying by the teeth? By hand is also the Rabbanan. And additionally, you'll be able to make a diuk and say as follows, that it's taima, that it's biyat. Why is his friend allowed to do it? It's biyat. But if it would be bekli, then it would be chayiv. So then you make a diuk and say the reason why it's the Rabbanon, it's because it's biyat. But if it would be a kli, then it would be a Isur D'Oraisa. But now that it says teeth, you can't make that diuk, because you'll say, but with teeth it's mutter. But by hand is also. But that doesn't show you anything about a kli, because by hand it's certainly only also mid the Rabbanan, not the Raisa. So that does no bearing on what the kli, that it would be also mid the Raisa with a kli. So therefore, l'chayre, it can't be the Rabbanan. According to you, that it's therefore it's Rabbi Eliezer. Well, Rabbi Eliezer also have a kash. Rabbi Eliezer now biyad. Why does it say teeth? According to Rabbi Eliezer, you do it by hand, because that's also the Rabbanan. So why would it be teeth? Mor says no. How can you can't make a comparison? If you tell him Bishlama Rabbi Eliezer that the bride is according to Rabbi Eliezer, Haina de Gazayad Atukli. If we take the Hanach, we take the assumption that Rabbi Eliezer says, even though something is mutter, Machshir mitzvah deichen Shabbos the rice, but hech dev shalashanu mishanim, we make a shinoi that it should be a drama, not a deraisa. So you see that we try to minimize the Yisr. So therefore we say, Regaza Yara Tukli. Therefore we say, rather do it by teeth rather than by hand, because by doing by hand is closer to the situation where you're doing it by the raisa. So therefore it's more chamur to do it by hand. It's more of a shinui to do it by the teeth. And therefore we say, rather do it with the teeth rather than the hand. Aliyah Rabbanani, but if it's according to Rabbanan, we don't see that they make this kind of chiluk in the various degrees of severity between the cases. Something that's mutter, we say do it in a way that it's less severe. So according to the Rabbanan, do it by hand, because why do it dafka by teeth? The hand is the Rabbanan, the teeth is the Rabbanan. We don't see in the Rabbanan anywhere any remez that they say, well, try to do it a lesser Rabbanan, not a more of a Rabbanan. Nothing more to discuss about this inyan. Continue on, Zok the Mishnah Vayter. A kohen has a wound in his finger. So it's not, as Rashi explains, it's not covered to do the avodah with a wound, that there be an exposed wound. So gemi b'mikdash, in the mikdash you can wrap a reed around it to cover it. Now, even though, as we'll see in the Gemara, even though the gemi, the reed, is maseh to refuah, nevertheless, and the refuah, the Rabban Geyser, a refuah shchika someone not to use a refuah on Shabbos, but l'tzerach, the avodah, they're matered avaloi b'medina, but not outside the base of Mikdash. But if he ties it so tight that it will, now the blood will be mitzi, blood will draw the blood from there. Kan v'kan also, it's also in both places, even the Mikdash, because there is no need for it to draw blood for the vaida, and it's also drawing the blood. It could be in Isser Doraisa, so therefore we are not matered even in the Mikdash. Zok the Gemara, that we said that he's allowed to wrap something around his finger and to cover the wound. That's only a gemi. That's only the reed. Aval silsil kotan. But if it's a small belt, even a small belt, then that's also haviyita begodim. That's considered extra begodim. The Torah says these are the begodim the kohen has to wear. You can't wear extra begodim. So if he would have it silsil kotan, that's an extra beged, and it would be also. So it's dafka gemi, that is mutter. But Rabbi Yochanan argues, he says, no, it's not considered yiter begodim, lo yamru yiter begodim, el b'mekayim begodim. That's only in a place where you normally wear clothes, so you can't wear extra clothes. But in a place where clothes are not worn, like on the finger, that's not considered yiter begodim. But if it's not in a place of the body where clothes are worn, for example, a finger, lo have yiter begodim, it's not considered yiter begodim. Frag the Gemara, why don't we say that it should be a chatzitza? Why don't we say a belt or even a gemi? It should be also to put on because it's a chatzitza. It's a separation between his hand and the klisharis. So the pasuk says v'lo kachakayin. He has to take it directly. There can't be a chatzitza. Why over here do we say that this is mutter? The Gemara answers one answer, b'small. The bandage we're talking about is on his left hand. He doesn't do the avodah with his left hand. He does the avodah with his right hand. So on his right hand, in Chanami, he can't put on the bandage. We're talking about the bandage on the left hand. Inami, the yamin shalei b'makam avodah. Alternatively, it is on the right hand, but not where he comes into contact with the klisharis, not where he does the avodah. So this is what Rav Yochanan says. Rav Yochanan says that there's only yiter begodim b'malkem begodim. Upligid the Rava, but Rava argues with that. The Amar Rava, Amar Rav Chisda, b'mekayim begodim, if it's on the part of a body where a begodim are normally worn, afil nima achas chaytzetzes, even one nima, even one thread is a chatzitza. Now one thread is not a beged. So what it means over here, it's a chatzitza, even one thread, the clothes have to be directly on his body. Even if you have one thread, it's a separation between his body and the clothes, so therefore that would disqualify him. But shalei b'malkem begodim, where clothes are not normally worn, so over here it's not a question of a chatzitza between his body and the beged, the clothes aren't worn there, so we say as follows, shalosh al shalosh chatzitzas. If it's 3 by 3, if it's 3 fingers by 3 fingers, if that's the size of it, it says chaytzetza. We don't mean chaytzetzas over here in the same way as we said before. It means if it's 3 by 3, then it's considered a beged, and therefore it's considered an addition to the begodim. It's considered yiter begodim. But if it's less than 3 by 3, it's not considered to be a beged, and it's not considered to be, therefore, yiter begodim. But what do you see Rava holds? He says, even shaloi b'malkem begodim, then it would still consider to be yiter begodim as long as it's shalosh. So therefore, Rava said that it has to be at least 3 by 3 to be an extra beged. Now, Rav Yehuda, Rav Chia said that even at silsil katan. So, how does Rava, can he agree with that, or does he agree with that? I disagree with that. So the Gezok to Gemara, Adar Rabbi Yochanan v'adai pliget. Rava certainly disagrees with Rabbi Yochanan, because Rabbi Yochanan says Shaloi b'makim begodim, there's no yiter begodim. But Adar Yehuda Rav Chia mi nema pliget. Does he argue with that or not? Now Rava said it has to be 3 by 3, and Rav Yehuda Rav Chia said even at silsil katan. The Gemara says no, lav davka, they're not necessarily arguing. Shiny silsil katan, the choshev, a small belt is choshev, and therefore a davar choshev doesn't have to be 3 by 3. The point of 3 by 3 is that it has to be a davar choshev to be yiter begodim. Normally, you need that minimum requirement, but at silsil katan is choshev, and therefore even if it's smaller than that, then it still would be yiter begodim. Some say a different version. What the Mishnah was matter, that was only a gemi, to wrap his finger with a gemi. But if it will be at silsil katan, it's considered to be a yiter begod. So far, there's no change there. But here's where the chiluk is in this lashon. The Rabbi Yochanan, however, Rabbi Yochanan says, Lo Amar Chatzitza bepachas mishal shal shos. They did not say the din of a chatzitza, meaning the separation, the chatzitza between his body and the beged. They didn't say it on something which is less than 3 as boys or 3 as boys. They said lo yamro chatzitza b'pachas mishalosh al shalosh ela b'makam begod. It's only in a place where begodim are worn. But if it's something which is on a part of the body where clothing is not normally worn, where the big tikkun is not normally worn, if it's 3 by 3, it's considered, now this way mean chaytzetzes, in this context it means yiter begod. If it's shalosh al shalosh, chaytzetzes, palchas mishalosh, ain't chaytzetzes. If it's less than 3 by 3, it's not choshev, it's not considered a beged, it's not yiter begodim, it's not chaytzetzes. V'hainu de Rav Amar Rav Chisda, which is the same thing which Rava said. Lema pliga de Rav Yehuda Brei Rav Chia. Let us say that Rava argues on Rav Yehuda Brei Rav Chia. Let us say that Rava, that says only something which is 3 by 3, 3 as by 3 is yiter begodim. Let's say he argues on Rav Yehuda Brei Rav Chia that says even at silsil katan. Now, as Rashi points out, Rav Yochanan certainly argues on Rav Yehuda Brei Rav Chia, because Rav Yehuda was going on Rav Yehuda Brei Rav Chia said silsil, and Rav Yochanan said no, that it's only something that where it's sholosh al sholosh. He says that Rav Yochanan said that so he certainly argues, but should we say that Rava also argues? Gemara says Rava could be maida, because even though he says generally you need shalosh al shalosh, but he could be maida that silsil katan is more chashuv, and therefore you don't need shalosh al shalosh. Rav Yochanan argues on it because he's referring to that, and he says no, that not like you're saying it's silsil katan, it has to be shalosh al shalosh. But Rava could agree with it in that even though generally you need shalosh al shalosh, but it's silsil katan is choshev and you don't. Well, according to Rav Yochanan, why does the Mishnah say the case of gemi? Tell me even a bigger chiddush that it's silsil katan, which is more choshev, even that he can put on. It's not considered yiter begodim. Our answer is milsa agavurcha kamashal of the gemi masi. It's telling me agavurcha incidentally that the chiddush that the gemi is masi, it heals, and therefore it's mutter only in the mikdash, but in the Medina would be also because it's a gzera of refuah.